Rosalind Bluestone. I'm the founder and CEO of Goods for Good, which I set up. We're actually in our 10th year. We're sort of approaching our 10th birthday this summer. So I set up this charity myself from my dining room table 10 years ago. And what Goods for Good do is we source goods which are unwanted by British and European industry, essential goods like clothing, footwear, bedding, hygiene goods. So these are it's redundant stock, and we deliver it to people in need wherever they may be. So that's also UK, also internationally. So since I started the charity, we've actually delivered to 27 countries. So at the moment, you can imagine we are very busy, but there's crises. I will stress, we're a small charity. There's 3 people, full-time people, and 1 part-time person and 2 freelancers. So when you look at the website, it looks like we're a sort of a global, it says Goods for Good Global, but we're actually a very small charity with a very big impact.
Which is unbelievable. And thank you very much for doing that. You've recently taken on a Brave Starts member. I'm sorry, I know this is a bit left field because I've just thought of this as a question. But would it be possible to say what it was that you liked about Graham when you met him?
Well, he was just perfect for the role that we were looking for. We have a board of trustees. As a registered charity, you need to have trustees, and we needed a new chair because the chair that we currently have is remaining a trustee, but he doesn't have time to dedicate to the charity. So he was happy and for us to find a new chair. And Graham had an amazing background, and he just sort of ticked all the boxes for the charity. So we're very, very excited.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm very excited too. I think he is as well. So you were saying that you set the charity up from your dining table. Would you mind saying something about how old you were when you did that?
So yes, so 10 years ago, I was just before my 60th birthday, I set up the charity from my Boreham Wood dining room table at home. And so basically, I'd been made redundant after working for 12 years for a London-based international charity where I almost set up a humanitarian aid delivery program. There was something in existence, but I built it up really from scratch. And our focus was former Soviet Union countries, so Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, Romania, Serbia, former Yugoslavia. So I've been to all those places, so places that you would never sort of book your own holiday to go to. I've had that privilege, and actually affected my life hugely. I didn't really realize what I was getting into when I took a job in the charity sector, and I fell in by chance, and they were looking for somebody with export experience, which I had. And it sort of greatly impacted my life. So when I was made redundant, I thought, just knew that all the people and all the different charities overseas that we were helping would struggle to get all the goods that we take for granted every day, like clothing and nappies and hygiene products. And it made me really determined, I have to carry this on. I have to find a way. And I was very lucky because I was approached by a Dutch charity that I'd been working with, and they said, come on, we'll help you to do this. And I also approached some colleagues that I'd worked with and said I would have been approached by a Dutch charity, and they want to encourage me to continue this. What do you think? And Noah, who is the chair, was the chair, said, let me know what you need and I will help you. And that's really how I started. But I'm certainly at 60, I didn't feel old. I don't feel my age. I don't feel I'm going to be 70 in June. I have no shame about my age. I'm very proud that I'm sort of young for my age and energetic. I've got 3 grown-up sons who won't let me be old. So
How marvelous. Because it is interesting, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of people who would probably kind of challenge that and say, well, you know, when at 60, you're starting to slow down. And I totally, you know, a lot of our audience can completely relate to this, not feeling your age, not wanting to slow down. And, you know, the real joy is that actually, as you get a bit older, a lot of the time the children have gone. They're no longer a distraction. And one of the wonderful advantages of living these much longer lives is that actually at the age of 60 or 70, you actually genuinely are. It's like the 50s of someone 30 or 40 years ago, right? So actually, from a physical perspective, you are still young. You know, you're probably going to, we were talking about the 100-year life now, right? You've still got 30 years to go. You're still a baby, actually.
yeah, it's funny. I was talking to one of my trustees about succession, and I said, well, you know, like maybe 5 years, and he's in his 80s, and he said, why?
Yeah.
Why would you think about that? I mean, obviously, as running a charity, one has to think of sort of have a plan,
Yeah.
always have a plan. But yeah, I mean, you know, I've got the energy, I've got the knowledge. So I think this is the thing, when you've got knowledge and you know how to do something, um, it's a shame just to park it
Mm.
unless you really have to. So I was very determined to find a way, because I knew what the need was, and also I needed to, I guess, prove to myself that I could actually do this. So I was a bit like a Rottweiler with a sort of like a stick between my teeth, you know, and I was just very determined to find a way. And it, you know, sort of working in logistics and warehousing and not having any money. So I had no money to set this up. I had no funding. And to be honest, you know, for all charities, funding is always an issue. It still is now, but you know, because the more you do, the more money you need to do it.
Yeah, of course. I guess you're right. I mean, I can relate to the funding issue without a doubt. It's interesting that you were saying about, you know, this other guy that works in your charity in his 80s, and he's like, well, why? Could you tell me something about what work gives to your life? What does the work give to his life that you're kind of in a place now where, well, let's be honest. You know, my aspiration for people is that actually work will become part of retirement, and retirement becomes part of work. That actually we're always doing something on our own terms, but we're always doing something. What does work mean for you?
I think work means having a purpose. And I often think, if I wasn't doing this, what would I do? And on the occasions when I go to aqua aerobics and I start my day a little bit later, so sort of adjusting, because sometimes if your body or your health means that you're sort of restricted in a certain way, you might need to sort of adjust the hours that you put in.
Yeah,
And
sure.
yeah. And when I sort of see sort of retired people who sort of terribly leisurely, and there am I sort of watching the clock to see when the aqua aerobics is finished and have I got enough time to get to the next Zoom meeting, or do I have to sort of nip out the pool a bit earlier? Um, um, you know, I think, well, you know, I couldn't imagine myself doing that. I mean, obviously my weekends are leisurely. My weekends are dedicated to my children and my grandchildren and to myself, because finding time for oneself as one gets older is really important. Health is very important.
Sure.
I did neglect my health when I sort of started up the charity. I drove myself and I was working 24/7 to set up. It was really, really hard work. I worked for 3.5 years by myself with no help, obviously with the help from the Board of Trustees, but on a day-to-day basis, I had absolutely no help. So, um, I think that I'm sort of rambling here, so I think I've answered your question. Um, I think for me, I couldn't see myself if I wasn't doing this and something happened, I would be volunteering for a different charity and doing something else.
Yeah.
Um, I couldn't see myself just sort of going from cruise to cruise, although that would be nice if I had the money to do that. But you know, I really think a fulfilling life, and keeping your brain engaged is really very healthy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. What would your advice be to other people who maybe they're in their 60s, maybe they've just been made redundant like you? What would your advice be to someone like that?
I think it's to dream of what you really want to be doing, and in a way to sort of create almost like the job description of your dream. So create that sort of what would I really love to be doing, and then talk to people about it, because that's what I did. I spoke to people. Look, I've got this crazy idea. What do you think? I spoke to my kids, my grown-up sons about it. I spoke to my friends about it, and I spoke to ex-colleagues about it. And by doing that and being really open, a lot of sort of windows opened up and I was encouraged. Um, and I think, you know, being redundant can be, let's face it, can be very depressing. And you know, I did suffer some depression and I needed to get some help for that. Um, but I think I would advise people to talk to people, get advice from people, and not internalize it, and just sort of go down into a sort of dark place. I think there is a big world out there, after retirement or redundancy, and I just think you need to be correct, you know, courageous and to dream. What would I like to be doing, and how can I make it happen, and who can help me to make it happen. And
Mm,
even if you end up not finding the thing that you really want to do, but volunteering, I always say to people, in a way, you need a job to get a job, and volunteering is a fantastic way. So if you've got a favorite charity or a local charity or a food bank
mm.
nearby, and you can actually dedicate some time, it's a stepping stone, and
Definitely.
and it's great on your CV as well if you do apply for a formal job.
Mm. And I think you were saying something before, weren't you, about the employees that you do have started off as volunteers?
Yes, each
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah, they were
amazing.
volunteers, and you know, as soon as we had some funding and they were in the right headspace, you know, that became a
And
job. I was very keen to employ them and to uh, remunerate them for what they were doing.
yeah, fantastic.